Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? So with the news that Payton Turner was going to have surgery and was going to go to IR, we knew there were roster moves that were going to come for the New Orleans Saints before they take on the Carolina Panthers in Charlotte. So the most obvious was the decision to put Payton Turner on IR. So the former first-round pick, turf toe, he'll have surgery on that toe, and he's going to be out here now for at least a month. It looks like his opportunity to return won't be until after the bye, which comes in week 11. So Payton Turner is going to be out for a while. You knew you had to replace him, and we knew that this was going to happen. We talked about this on Wednesday's show because the Saints signed a free agent in Terrell Lewis. So we talked about Terrell Lewis a good bit. Lewis played at Alabama, drafted in the third round by the Rams, 3 years with the Rams, won a Super Bowl there. But the real question was if the Saints were going to be comfortable activating Terrell Lewis. I mean, you sign him on Wednesday. Are you really going to play him on Monday Night Football on the road when he's been with the team for 4 days? So the answer pretty clearly now is no. It's not going to be Terrell Lewis, as the Saints did sign Terrell Lewis to the practice squad. Of note is that they promoted Kyle Phillips to the 53-man roster, and this was our feeling yesterday if you were here, because when Dennis Allen talked about the opportunities, he mentioned Isaiah Foskey, of course, second-round pick, and then he mentioned a couple of guys on the practice squad who would also have that opportunity. Well, the couple guys on the practice squad were Kyle Phillips and Nico Lalos, and we went through this. Look, Nico Lalos had a great preseason. He had 4 sacks, which led the NFL in sacks in the preseason. But Kyle Phillips is the guy that's got more skins on the wall, who's been in NFL games and played in more NFL action, and of course was with the Saints throughout camp in the preseason. So this is a very natural and obvious fit because this is the guy who has the most game experience in the NFL, the most skins on the wall, and has been with you throughout this whole offseason program. He's ready. He's the most obvious choice. Yes, you'd love it if Isaiah Foskey were ready to play, but you're not going to take him and just put him on the field because this week in particular, going to Carolina, you have got to be able to affect Bryce Young. Atlanta was able to do that. And as a result, Bryce Young didn't have a great day throwing the football. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't a thing where when you go out there and you throw for 100 yards in a game, it's just not super. It's just not going to be super efficient or effective, which is what happened to Carolina. He threw a couple of picks. One of them was off a deflection, but he threw a couple of picks in the ball game against Atlanta. So if you're New Orleans and you know you've got Cam Jordan on one side and Carl Granderson on the other, and you've got Tano Passanio as a backup there, well, who's going to be your other backup in the 2 deep that's going to be part of your rotation? Payton Turner's out. Kyle Phillips becomes the most obvious. Now, moving forward after this week, it's going to be very interesting to see if Terrell Lewis can win a job and win reps as he gets more comfortable with what the Saints are trying to do schematically. But for Monday, as it stands right now, it looks like with Kyle Phillips being promoted to the 53-man roster, he's going to be the guy that gets that opportunity behind Carl Granderson at the right end. The other notes, so those were 2 of the notes. Payton Turner went to IR. Kyle Phillips was promoted to the 53-man roster. They did announce the signing of Terrell Lewis, so that's 3 of them. Also of note, and I think a lot of people were interested in this, Jontre Kirkland was released from the practice squad, and Ryan Connolly, who aggravated his preseason knee injury, was placed on the injured list as well. So he was designated to the practice squad as an injured player, so he's no longer against the 53. So if you're following me, Payton Turner, Ryan Connolly, both go to IR. Jontre Kirkland released. So you freed up 3 spots. You brought in Terrell Lewis, like we talked about. They also re-signed Ty Summers. Remember, Ty Summers, another one of those veteran linebackers who'd been around the league, and it was kind of Summers or Connolly for that backup linebacker spot. Connolly won the job. Well, now, Connolly being injured, Summers, they signed right back, and he fills into that role. And the third spot that they signed, and this is essentially the guy replacing Jontre Kirkland, is tight end Michael Jacobson. Michael Jacobson's interesting because he's a guy that played basketball collegiately at Iowa State and then decided, he's 6'7", sound familiar? Played basketball collegiately and then decided he wanted to give football a try, and so he's bounced around the NFL a little bit. Was with the Colts most recently. And now he's also with the Seahawks, and he's trying to give it a go. The one thing that you have to say about New Orleans as a hat tip is this is a franchise that offensively has found creative ways to get guys involved. From Jimmy Graham being a basketball player, finding the Taysom Hill role, carving that out. Sean Payton and I guess by extension, Pete Carmichael have done that. So I'm not saying, especially right now when you look at the Saints roster where you've got 3 really good tight ends already, and so much so that you couldn't keep Lucas Krull, and he promptly got signed. I'm not saying that there's a role for Michael Jacobson on this team, but he's an interesting project, and let's see if they can carve that out. The other sort of noteworthy roster move, by the way, they also signed cornerback Faion Hicks to the practice squad. The other noteworthy roster move was promoting Lynn Bowden to the 53-man roster. If you remember, Lynn Bowden was an all-purpose player at Kentucky who was a receiver and returned kicks and punts and was awesome. And actually, in his last game, their bowl game, he ended up having to play quarterback in that game and went off for like 300 yards. He was awesome. Lynn Bowden is a guy that, while the Saints don't really need depth at receiver any more than they already have, he's a guy that can also play all the special teams units and can return kicks and punts. Let me remind you what happened on the opening kickoff against the Titans. Rashid Shaheed had the ball ripped out of his hands. Turnovers on special teams generally at this level mean you don't keep your job anymore doing that. Now, Rashid Shaheed is a fine receiver and is going to have a role on this team. Obviously, is that what appears to be the number 3 right now behind Chris Olave and Michael Thomas. So he's got his role, but Lynn Bowden could very well be activated to go return kicks and punts and to cover kicks and punts as the gunner as well. So something worth keeping an eye on as the Saints head to Carolina this weekend. So 9 roster moves, and it was a busy day for the Saints. We always say it. It's never the final 53. It's always the first 53 because this is constantly in flux. And the Payton Turner injury, the Ryan Connolly injury necessitated a few moves, and they wanted to get Lynn Bowden to the 53-man roster, and they released Jontre Kirkland there as well. So there you have it. Payton Turner, Ryan Connolly, Jontre Kirkland out. Turner and Connolly IR. Kirkland out. Lynn Bowden, Kyle Phillips promoted to the 53-man roster. They added Ty Summers, Terrell Lewis, Michael Jacobson to the practice squad, along with cornerback Faion Hicks. A lot. You got all that because there will be a test tomorrow. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.